A woman in Okinawa wakes before sunrise, steps into her garden, and pulls purple sweet potatoes from the soil with her bare hands. No protein shake, no breakfast bar, no sweet coffee the size of a flower vase, no package promising energy, metabolism, or longevity. And yet her body often stays steadier into old age than many modern bodies do at 55. That is the contradiction, because most people still think long life begins with what you add. Add supplements, add protein, add antioxidants, add a better morning routine, add a more expensive version of the same broken day. But traditional Okinawan life suggests something far less glamorous and far more powerful. Their bodies were protected not by a miracle food, but by 5 foods they never allowed to become normal. And once you see those 5 foods clearly, something else comes into focus. What modern life has really taken from the body is not just nutritional quality. It has taken rhythm. It has taken appetite clarity. It has taken the clean line between hunger and excess. It has taken the moment when the body knows it has had enough. That last part matters more than most people realize, because the foods are only the surface. There is one deeper signal underneath them that makes the whole pattern work. We will come back to that. But first, step into the world that preserved it. Morning in Okinawa does not feel like modern breakfast. It does not begin with a product. It begins with a place. Soil still cool from the night, steam rising from miso, a small bowl in the hand, tea poured slowly, sweet potatoes split open while still warm, tofu, greens, maybe sea vegetables, maybe a little fish. Nothing loud, nothing fluorescent, nothing engineered to be impossible to stop. This is what makes Blue Zone eating so seductive. Not that it is exotic, that it still has edges. It still belongs to the ground, the kitchen, the season, the table. It still asks something of the senses, a little chewing, a little bitterness, a little texture, a little patience. Research on the traditional Okinawan pattern describes a diet centered heavily on sweet potatoes, vegetables, and soy foods with far less animal food than modern Western diets. That is not a small detail. It tells you what the body was being built around day after day: simple starches, plant foods, modest portions, and repetition rather than stimulation. pmc.ncbi.nlm.nih.gov. That rhythm creates a different biological feeling. Meals arrive as meals, not as entertainment, not as emergency correction, not as something squeezed between screens and errands. And when food still lives inside a rhythm like that, the body behaves differently. It does not get yanked all day. It does not keep waiting for the next hit. It does not forget how to feel hunger cleanly. It does not lose the ability to stop. Most people look at Okinawa and see ingredients: sweet potatoes, tofu, soup, tea. But the deeper advantage is not just what is on the plate, it is what is missing from the day. And this is where modern life quietly turns against the body. Modern life did not only change food, it changed what feels ordinary. A sweet drink on the drive, a flavored yogurt at a desk, a protein bar because lunch is late, processed meat because it is convenient, a snack at 4 p.m. because energy is dropping again, dinner in front of a screen, something sweet afterward because the meal never really ended. Then after enough years, people start saying something very dangerous. Maybe this is just aging. Maybe the afternoon crash is age. Maybe the cravings are age. Maybe the heaviness after dinner is age. Maybe feeling half hungry and half overfed all the time is age. Some of it is age, but a lot of it is interference. Modern food keeps interrupting the body before the body can finish a sentence. A meal starts, then a snack. A dip comes, then caffeine. A craving appears, then sweetness. You are never quite hungry, never quite satisfied, never quite done. This is why the body starts to feel noisy. So let's make this concrete. Here are the 5 foods Okinawan life traditionally kept small, rare, or outside the center of the day. Not because people there were trying to be perfect, because they were protecting themselves from 5 forms of appetite distortion. The first food is liquid sugar. This is where modern life does some of its fastest damage. Soda, sweet coffee, bottled tea, juice that behaves more like sugar than fruit, energy drinks, recovery drinks, even healthy drinks that are really dessert in a bottle. Liquid sugar is different from sweetness in whole food. You do not chew it. You do not slow down for it. It enters fast, disappears fast, and teaches the body to want another rise before the previous one has even settled. For adults over 45, that often shows up in the real language of the body: more swings, more cravings, more afternoon fog, less stable energy, more eating that feels driven instead of chosen. Traditional Okinawan eating leaned the other way. Sweetness was there, but it arrived mostly through whole foods, especially sweet potatoes, not through sweet drinks woven through the day. Reviews of the traditional Okinawan diet consistently describe it as low in energy density and built around whole plant foods rather than refined modern carbohydrate products. pmc.ncbi.n, lm.nih.gov. So the first correction is simple and powerful: stop drinking sweetness. Water, plain tea, coffee that tastes like coffee. If you change nothing else for a week, this alone can lower the noise. The second food is one modern people barely even register as dessert anymore: sweetened breakfast food, flavored yogurt, sugary cereal, granola clusters glued together with syrup, breakfast pastries marketed as convenience, instant oatmeal that tastes like cake, healthy breakfast cups that are really sugar with branding. This is one of the quietest ways modern life breaks appetite early. You wake up, and before the day has even found its shape, your mouth is already flooded with sweetness. That matters, because the first taste of the day often sets the appetite tone of the day. Traditional Okinawan mornings were built around savory, earthy, humble foods: sweet potato, soup, tea, soy foods, vegetables. That kind of breakfast does not spike the senses. It settles them. It tells the body this is nourishment, not stimulation. This is one reason so many adults feel hungrier than they should by mid-morning. They did not eat breakfast. They ate a sweet event. If you want a cleaner morning, do not just remove sugar. Change the emotional role of breakfast. Make it calmer, warmer, less cute, more real. The third food is modern nutrition theater: protein bars, shakes, and powdered meals. To be clear, protein matters. Strength matters. Muscle matters more as you age, not less. But modern food culture took that truth and built an industry around concentrated, sweet, portable products that often keep the body locked inside the exact problem they claim to solve. Sweet shakes, meal replacements, protein cookies, bars with ingredient lists that read like chemistry subtitles. Traditional Okinawan eating did not center protein this way. Its protein lived inside food: tofu, soy, beans, small amounts of fish, broth, modest portions. Research reviews on Okinawan dietary patterns note soy as a principal protein source, with much less emphasis on animal food and concentrated protein than in modern Western eating. pmc.ncbi.n, lm.nih.gov. That difference is bigger than it looks. Real protein inside a meal is one thing. Dessert-flavored protein dropped into the day as a snack, a drink, or a rush substitute is another. One completes a meal, the other often extends appetite confusion. This is why some people hit their protein target and still feel puffy, restless, snacky, and unsatisfied. The issue is not always how much. Sometimes it is the form. Sometimes it is the rhythm. Sometimes it is the fact that the body is being fed through products instead of meals. So the correction here is not low protein. It is less synthetic protein. Let lunch or dinner do the heavy lifting. Let food look like food again. The fourth food is processed meat becoming normal background food. Bacon as a weekday default, sausage as convenience, deli meat as lunch identity, fast food meat as the easiest answer to a busy schedule. This is not about pretending Okinawans never ate meat. It is about what sat at the center of the pattern. Traditional Okinawan eating was not built around large, meat-heavy plates 3 times a day. Meat was not the main architecture of the day. That matters because when processed meat becomes routine, the whole plate gets dragged in a certain direction: heavier, saltier, easier to overeat, harder to pair with the vegetables, broths, and modest portions that once slowed eating down. A bowl of miso with tofu, greens, and sweet potato creates one biological climate. A desk lunch built around processed meat, refined bread, and urgency creates another. That difference is not theoretical. The body feels it by mid-afternoon. The fifth food is the one most modern adults never truly count. Ultra-processed snacks, chips, crackers, cookies, healthy bites, desk snacks, car snacks, late-night snacks, the handfuls that do not look important but end up rewriting the day. This is where a food culture becomes a snack culture. And once that happens, a lot more changes than calories. Meals lose their edges, hunger loses its meaning, satisfaction loses its timing. You stop arriving at food with clarity. You start grazing through boredom, fatigue, reward stress, and habit. And this is one of the deepest differences between long-lived eating patterns and modern urban eating. Food cultures still have boundaries. Snack cultures dissolve them. That is why ultra-processed snacks are not just extra food. They are appetite erasers. So that is the 5 liquid, sugar-sweetened breakfast foods, protein bars, and shakes, processed meat as a daily default in ultra-processed snacks. That is the outer layer. Now we get to the hidden mechanism that makes all 5 more important than they seem. Okinawa did not only preserve simpler food, it preserved a stopping point. The phrase most people know is harahachi bu, eat until you are about 80% full. Blue Zone's research has repeatedly pointed to this habit as one of the quiet disciplines built into Okinawan life, not fasting, not punishing restriction, just a lifelong habit of stopping before fullness becomes overload. pmc.ncbi.nlm.nih.gov. This is the part most modern people have lost. Not because they are weak, because modern food is designed to blur the moment of enough. If you eat fast, you miss it. If you eat with a screen, you miss it. If your food is hyper-palatable, soft, sweet, and endless, you miss it. If you snack all day, you barely meet true hunger in the first place. And when the stopping signal disappears, food starts requiring force. More rules, more tracking, more self-control, more guilt, more products to compensate for products. Okinawan life preserved something better than force. It preserved a cleaner conversation between appetite and awareness. That is why the foods matter. They do not just change nutrition, they protect the signal. And there is one more piece. Fermented food. Not because fermented food is magic, because it restores something modern eating flattened out. Miso, fermented tofu, live culture yogurt, kimchi, refrigerated sauerkraut. A 2021 dietary intervention published in Cell found that a diet high in fermented foods increased microbiome diversity and reduced multiple inflammatory markers over 10 weeks. That does not mean fermented food is a miracle. It means old food traditions were preserving something modern food culture stripped away. Cell.com. Modern food became sweeter, smoother, easier, longer lasting, more frictionless. But bodies do not always thrive on frictionless. Sometimes they thrive on texture, sourness, bitterness, slowness, and endings. That is what this pattern gives back. Do not try to eat like Okinawa in some theatrical way. Do something more useful. Protect one meal a day. That is the reset. For 7 days, choose one meal, preferably dinner, and build it around these rules. No sweet drink. No processed snack before it. No screen for the first 5 minutes. Then make the plate feel more Okinawan in spirit, a simple starch like sweet potato or rice. A real protein like tofu beans, eggs or fish. Something green, something warm, and one fermented element. Miso works. Kimchi works. Plain live culture yogurt works. Then stop at the point where more food would still be pleasant, but no longer necessary. That is the skill. Not dieting, not restriction, signal recovery. If you are busy, do the city version. Keep miso at home. Roast sweet potatoes in batches. Use frozen edamame. Buy plain yogurt instead of flavored. Carry sparkling water instead of sweet drinks. Stop buying the foods that become automatic when you're tired. Do not aim for purity. Aim for protection. Protect one meal a day from modern food logic. That is enough to begin changing the body's tone. Try it for 7 days and watch what changes first, not your entire life. Signals. After 3 days, sweetness often starts feeling louder. The late snack feels less inevitable. The line between hunger and habit begins to reappear. After 7 days, the day usually feels less jagged, fewer random cravings, less afternoon collapse, lighter evenings, cleaner endings to meals. After 30 days, the deeper shift becomes obvious. Food stops taking so much negotiation. You get hungry more cleanly. You stop more naturally. You crave less chaos. You rely less on self-control because the day itself is less disruptive. That is what these 5 avoided foods were protecting. Not just weight, not just lab numbers. A cleaner metabolic rhythm, a calmer body, a longer stretch of life where the body still feels like a good place to live. That is why Okinawan aging has looked so different for so long. Not because they found one miracle ingredient, because they refused to normalize the foods that keep the body overstimulated, overfed, and undersignaled. So here's the real question. Which of these 5 has become too normal in your life? Liquid sugar, sweetened breakfast foods, protein, bars and shakes, processed meat, or ultra-processed snacks? Tell me in the comments, and tell me which Okinawan meal you want me to translate next into a realistic city version for adults over 45. Because the goal is not to admire longevity from a distance. It is to rebuild its advantage inside a life like yours.